tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, where we can have you check in for your dose of stigma-breaking, humor-filling, empowerment-building, life hacks, and motivation tips for all of the medically adultish people in your life. I'm Dominique Vale, the founder of InvisiYouth, and today is Season 2, Episode 21 of the Chat Sessions. So if you are watching us on our YouTube channel, you can see that we're in a little bit of a new home. We, with our lovely family at Gotham Podcast, we now have a new home in Midtown, so you get to see a new set. Make sure if you are listening to our podcast, check out our YouTube channel, give it a subscribe, and then you'll get to see not only this wonderful new set of ours, but you'll get to see our wonderful guest that's on today. So I'm going to fully introduce her, and I'm so excited to have her on the show today because she's not only made a pretty incredible name for herself in the activism, social media world, and chronic illness community, but she's also a very dear friend of mine and has been such a supporter of InvisiYouth the past couple years that we've known each other, Miss Hayley Gripp. So Hayley is an anti-bullying and disability advocate and has used her experiences of having Tourette syndrome along with her past experiences of being an actress and a print model to bring a voice and a face to the health community, and especially for us, a close one to my heart, the invisible illness community. And I like to say that Hayley's resume is pretty impressive. I'm only listing a few things that Hayley's done, and it's pretty epic. She has been featured in news outlets like Yahoo News and BuzzFeed, lobbying with senators on Capitol Hill while playing a prominent role in updating and revising education laws like the IDEA Act and the CARE Bill, and helping to launch a female vegan lifestyle website called Girls Who Eat Plants. That's her work even outside of the disability and chronic illness community, and that part of her resume is even more impressive too, why we love her so much. Hayley has collaborated with people like Dr. Raj, who's on the hit TV series The Doctors, and was able to release an ebook with him. She also is in development of her own nonprofit, which will get to feature social media workshops for those with disabilities in order to use that space creatively and positively and empoweringly for them. And this past June, Hayley also hosted a health and wellness weekend that was during the Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month as well, and it featured so many amazing things. Some of them were crystal healing classes, yoga classes, cardio sessions. She also had a panel of guest experts and celebs talking about self-love. And now Hayley gets to split her time between Los Angeles and New York City, where she's going to be developing even more amazing projects. She has a campaign in the work that's going to be #PostWithIntegrity and #ShareWithLove, which really is creating an empowering movement for so many young people to embrace the strength of vulnerability and sharing their stories positively on social media. And she's also filming a documentary that will focus on her life, her ways of overcoming adversity, focusing on Tourette syndrome, and finding her voice. And once you get to have her for the rest of this episode, you'll get to see the amazing voice that Hayley has. So everybody, welcome Hayley to the show. Hi, Hayley. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy that once we come into our new studio home that you are the guest that we're bringing on. I'm really excited to have our listeners and viewers get to know you a bit more and us to have a really fun chat. I know it's going to be a great hour of listening time.
Yeah, it's first off, let me start and say it's a complete honor to not just be on the show, but to personally call you friend and to be able to support such an incredible cause. I think that at the end of the day, it's not about resumes or credit or whatnot, but the actual impact we make. And that's one thing I truly admire about you is you see that very clearly, is the thing that matters most is the impact you're making.
Oh, thank you. Well, how about we make an hour of impact together? It'll be twice as fun, and a full girl boss lady moment for the two of us together.
Yes, please. # boss babes?
There we go. Well, we're putting that in right when this episode comes out. That's going to be right in our Instagram caption. There we go. # boss babes for that one. So we're going to dive right in. I want our guests to get to know you a bit better, and we're going to go into our first segment with Hayley called Remember the Last Time.
Remember the last time? Do you remember the last time?
everyone, with Remember the Last Time. It's pretty much like the title. We get to go through some quick questions with Hayley so you all get to know her better, asking about the last time that she's done different things. So, Hayley, when was the last time you gave somebody a really nice hug?
Yesterday. A family I had nannied for many years or whatnot, and I'm still in their life because I kind of fell in love with the kids. It was like the 6 years since I had been in their life, so I made it a point to drive over and spend some time. And I had all 3 girls run and give me giant hugs, and now they're 16, 14, and 9. So they're not the little kids anymore.
Oh my
and
God.
Either now they can knock me over, but it was the best feeling ever.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that. What was the last time you visited a place for the first time?
Oh, okay. Just before I came back to LA a week ago, I was in New York, and all I could think about was French food, and I must have manifested it. I was walking through the West Village and came across a little tiny place, and it was the best ever, and I can't even think of the name right now.
No,
I will get the name.
West Village does have really nice food. You can just find every little tiny corner, and you'll find amazing food.
So I could actually eat it, which was incredible. Yeah.
No, that is true. There's so much variety in the city that definitely helps with a vegan like yourself for sure.
Yeah.
What about, speaking of food, if you were going to bring together your Last Supper, who would be 4 people you would want at your Last Supper? Dead or alive, famous or family, who would you want there?
Only 4?
Oh,
what a travesty!
It's 4 because we celebrated our 4-year anniversary this past June, so 4. Okay. We can add them later. The rest of your Last Supper.
Well, I'm just because in my circle of all the people I love, I couldn't just name 4. So I'm going to name people that are inspirations to me who aren't in the close circle, because I know that the people who support me are all going to be watching. I don't want anyone to feel left out. So let's get started. Okay, this is going to be a feminist table, just so we know.
Right up my
Audrey
alley.
Hepburn.
Yes.
Audrey Hepburn, because she was everything classy, but she also did everything to her standards. She really launched the trend of not being overly feminine and wearing jeans and cutting her hair short. Amelia Earhart, because of her love of life and fearlessness, and that's something that I admire so much. This is someone who is not deceased, but Meryl Streep. I'm sorry, I just adore her, simply because I read an article, and it was the first time she ever auditioned. She was turned down and told it was because of her looks, and she could have gone home and cried, but she pushed on, and now she's obviously we know who she is.
She's got a room of Oscars.
I know, exactly. But she also is incredibly skilled and has an amazing heart. And then I'd have to bring in somebody really funny. So maybe like Melissa McCarthy or something, because I feel like you just need to laugh the entire time.
Oh my gosh. Melissa McCarthy, even pre-Bridesmaids, Suki from Gilmore Girls.
Yes, Gilmore Girls.
Oh gee, I knew that right away when I went, oh my God, Suki's in Bridesmaids. This is amazing.
That would be a really great Last Supper, I think.
There we go. What was the last time you had to take a health moment, sort of, with your health struggles like my own? When was it time you were like, I have to take a self-love moment for my health?
When I just put on this event, the June 1st and 2nd for Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, it was a lot harder than I thought. And I'm a person who I do have pride, and that's something that I work on every day. But it also took a huge toll on my health. Yeah. The stress, and just, I'm also a perfectionist. I think from growing up, people telling me what I can't do, I strive to be an overachiever, which again is something I'm working on. But then immediately after that, I took people to Joshua Tree to shoot part of the campaign for the Post with Integrity. And the nonstop it was so much. I actually ended up in the hospital.
Oh, boy.
And I think that in itself was a wake-up call that
Mm-hmm.
I need to remember above all else to put my health first. And I actually ended up in the hospital right after the event prior to Joshua Tree, and I went to Joshua Tree the day after. But
Wow.
I think it was really hard, and it was simply because of my own negligence of not listening to my body. I had an earache on Friday, and by Sunday, I had so much pain and such a bad ear infection that my eardrum almost burst, and that's part of with the immune deficiency that I have. That being said, I had to go, and we actually had to shut down the event a little bit earlier because of this medical emergency, and I have never felt more horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this was a wake-up call, and I believe everything happens for a reason, and that was the universe saying, hey, slow down, take care of yourself, because you can't help others or make an impact unless you put yourself first.
No, and that's such an amazing sort of even learning experience for a lot of listeners or viewers too, to really take away from that experience that you had as well, to know that sometimes we do need those little check-in moments with our health going. You have to partner and work well with your chronic illness. It's not, you can't stay in your own lane away from it. You sometimes have to merge with it and kind of work together to get through things.
Absolutely.
What was the last time you got really good advice?
During the Joshua treat that I just went on, gosh, I feel like I'm just promoting everything, and that is not my intention. It's just this whole past probably 2 months, I've just grown a lot and really learned and found my voice. And I brought a self-love coach to come where all the girls were and do a session with us. And one of the things that he said to me was, or after the session, which I guess I came to the conclusion of, I'm not my past. So I advocate and, raise awareness and speak and whatnot, I've always kind of clung to my story, which is what I know, who I am. But it was the most interesting thing when he asked me, and the question that Kev Crenshaw asked me was, well, what about the now? Because that's in the past. Are you the same person you were? And it literally made me take a breath, and I was like, no. And now I look back and I realized that when I shared my story, I always spoke about it in the past tense. And for me, I still struggle with Tourette's because it comes and goes. It may not look like I'm ticking right now because I'm holding it in, but I'm also holding in the OCD, the ADHD, the anxiety. You just can't tell because I've had to train myself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a really important thing to mention, especially with similar to both of our stories as well, having invisible illness. It is a checkpoint that you have to actually sometimes even remind yourself that you're still living with different chronic illnesses and those symptoms, because even on your own end, you're not watching them within your own body at the same time. So that was actually really nice sort of piece of motivational advice for you to get. Kind of leads in, and we'll switch a little bit of gears on this one though. When was the last time you received a real letter in the mail, like Hallmark style, had a stamp on it, the whole nine?
Oh, okay. I received a thank you note from a dear friend, Tracy. And she is the founder of Tracy's Paws, and myself and my dog Stitch are huge supporters, and she helps out a ton of animal shelters and helps with adoptions. And she actually sent me a thank you note just thanking me for, posting about her things and coming out and supporting. And it was just her saying, just you being there and whatnot makes all the difference. And then it kind of made me realize that it's the same for me, how truly grateful I am for the people that support me in my journey.
No, I love that. That always is something that's really sweet. And also with her work too, I love anything that deals with animals and adoption. That's such a fond part for me. I love those people who really take care of our furry friends and family members in that way too. What about the last one we're going to do, obviously as a nonprofit, we will have to end on this one. When was the last time you went to either a nonprofit event or got to donate to a nonprofit? When was the last time you sort of did a pay it forward moment for another charity?
For me, charity is a huge part of my life, but I'm very specific about charities in the way that I support them, because I will not just show up on a red carpet without knowing anything about a charity. It's not about the press. It's not about the credit. I actually like to be involved. And one thing that I supported recently was the Beastly Ball at the Los Angeles Zoo, because they have one of the best rehabilitation or programs in the country. And they really go above and beyond in helping animals. So if you think of those news stories where you hear about people with tigers in their backyard and you wonder, well, where do they end up? They actually go to the LA Zoo, where they put them through an incredible state-of-the-art rehabilitation program and try to do their best to relocate them so they're able to be in the wild. And if not, they actually give them a life worth living. Now, what I will say is not every zoo is created equal. And I'm not a supporter of all zoos, but this one, I actually am, because I can see the difference that they're actually making.
Yeah.
And I was so proud to go and support and actually see. And they're also have one of the top conservation programs and are about conserving the environment and the species. So yeah.
No, I love that. And kind of even I have a quick question before we go to our next segment on that. So at that event, we're also always celebrating animals, but do you love sort of charity events that have that live music element? You have musicians coming in and really sort of boosting the energy in an event room?
Yes, there is nothing more wonderful than live music and really getting to, hear people put their heart and soul in it.
No, I love that. And kind of making a quick little segue into a music conversation, which is why I brought it up to Hayley. I wanted to make sure that we thanked one of our amazing charitable sponsors. You guys on our social media have seen that they've done music recitals and donations for our nonprofit over the years. And they are called Music Forever in Edison, New Jersey, which has been so wonderful. They've not only supported the nonprofit's programming and events in fundraising for us, but they're so supportive of the InvisiYouth chat sessions as well by being one of our charitable sponsors. And for us, I know Hayley would definitely agree too, the arts are something that's so important for everyone in the chronic illness and disability community. It's not just from a music therapy standpoint or just building your own mental wellness or being a meditative way of relaxing, but also even in a form of physio. It's good for that sort of pulmonary release, using your upper body extremities as well. In a physio, you can always talk to your own physicians about that and ask to sort of incorporate instruments and music into your life with any sort of chronic illness or disability. And with Music Forever, they're really such a premier central New Jersey music school for musicians from beginner level all the way through intermediate and advanced training. They also have a chamber ensemble you can join, and building that sort of camaraderie of music together with other instruments. And their range of highly qualified teachers, these are musicians that have been going to school and have university degrees and are musicians on their own outside and have done a lot of training to be high quality music teachers. So you get personalized instrumental or voice lessons one-on-one, and it ranges from the traditional guitars, drums, vocal lessons, pianos and saxophone, all the way to flutes, ukuleles, violins, cellos, bassoons. It's such a large range at Music Forever. And if you need a little TLC for an instrument you already own, they have some amazing expert technicians who have over 50 years of experience. So you are going to get some real amazing TLC on your instruments you own or renting an instrument from them too. So we want to make sure you're going to be seeing some graphics and information popping up on the screen now. You're going to have their link below as well, musicforevernj.com. Definitely make sure to reach out to them for all of your music lover needs. They have a Facebook page. Again, that's musicforevernj.com. And please let them know that InvisiYouth Charity sent them your way and be able to bring some more music back into your life as well. So something that music is able to do, and I know Hayley would agree with that as well, is bring a lot of motivation and empowerment. So our next segment with Hayley is going to be Empowerment with Laughter.
Ooh, okay, I'm really excited. I love to laugh.
Empower with Laughter.
With Empowerment with Laughter, this is one of my personal favorite segments, and Hayley just jumped up and down for this one, so I'm really excited. We always are told, especially in the chronic illness and disability community, that laughter is the best form of medicine, but sometimes, you need to know how to use some empowerment and humor in your life. We're not given a prescription of what type of humor we need to build into our daily life with chronic illness and disability. So in Empower with Laughter, we get to talk with our guests about how they empower themselves in different experiences, how they face the highs and lows of life with different types of health struggle and never fitting into that box of quote unquote normal. So a big thing I wanted to bring up, and for all of you guys, I know at the end of the episode, Hayley's going to list off all of her social media handles so you can connect with her. But a big thing you'll see on her Instagram is this focus on self-love and self-worth and the journey that is for somebody, especially with a chronic illness or a disability. So I really wanted to ask Hayley, what would be sort of some steps on your own that you feel are able to empower you within your life that are really good for sort of self-motivation?
One of the things that you bring up is the social media aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people say, oh, you're so positive, like you've overcome so much. And, I'm the type of person, I don't have a victim mentality. If you ask me my story, I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But I share it from an education standpoint to never give up hope. But I think that on social media, I do have really rough days too. Yeah. And I try my best to incorporate those in. But I also, get about 50 girls or people in general. There's some guys too from around the world who message me per week and ask advice about self-worth or being bullied or have disabilities. And I try my best to answer every single one. And so I really try, no matter what, even when I'm struggling, to have an uplifting voice, but it's not always easy. And I think it comes down to a few things. I have a really incredible support system of friends and family who literally love me like I'm at my best, even when I'm at my worst, who encourage me to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Because growing up, I didn't have, those amazing supportive friends that really encouraged that. I had to fit in and suppress it. And so it's still a totally new concept. But I think that in dealing with any kind of disability or chronic illness, it really does affect not just our self-worth, but how we see ourselves as a person. And I really try to start my day every day by looking in the mirror and saying 3 things I love about myself and 3 things I'm grateful for.
I love that.
And the last thing that I can also say is I think that in, feeling good about ourselves, it also means physically taking care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So eating what's going to make you feel good. I'm not going to lie when I say that my secret vice is Oreos.
I love
they
it.
are vegan. But I also know that I need a lot of protein. Mm-hmm. I have to have, my vitamins and a lot of vegetables and drink a lot of water. And it's taking care of myself that makes me mentally also feel good.
Yeah, no, that's critical. And I love a point that you made in the beginning too, is that it is a journey with empowering yourself and having that self-love. And that's sort of a big tip that I wanted to even reinforce on your end, is that if you have bad days, it doesn't mean that all of the positive days and the days you were confident and felt motivated and worked hard on your health and your work and friendships, it doesn't mean if you have one bad day, medically or personally, that it's a complete setback in your self-love and your self-worth. that's a big thing a lot of people will say is, well, I had a bad week, or my health's been really crazy and I'm just having a really hard time this past month. But it is, like you said, knowing that every day is different and knowing that you're still moving forward, even if you have days where you sort of are not feeling your best. That's not the definition of your entire journey with a chronic illness or a disability. It is sort of an evolution all the time.
And I think also a big part of drawing off of that, and that has to do with self-worth, and I still have to remind myself. And granted, I know all about self-worth, self-love, but I think anybody who's been bullied or dealt with adversity is just going to struggle, and you constantly are growing. But I also, a question you asked earlier was some of the best advice I got. And one of them was from a life coach, and he said to me, you need to disassociate yourself from if you fail at something or let someone down or, someone's upset, it doesn't make you a bad person. Mm-hmm. And true. That was a critical point for me because I had previously, I'd feel physically ill if I upset someone. Yeah. I put such high standards on myself, but I also pushed myself to really go above and beyond. And that was kind of like where I started to find my voice and be like, wow, I do have the power to say no. And it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad friend or whatnot. And it really helped me see how strong I am, but differentiating that if I do make a mistake or if I do accidentally upset someone, you're not a bad person. Just like if you fail at something, you're not a failure. Yeah. How can you be a failure if you fail at something? Like if you think of Steve Jobs, for instance, how many times he failed before he found success and whatnot. And I think that's with our health is you have a bad day, but it doesn't mean that every day for the rest of your life is going to be bad.
Yeah. And I even kind of going off of that too, what would be some tips or advice you'd have of trying to, when you're having those bad days, especially like you had mentioned with the chronic illness community, we sort of take it becomes an additional problem of sort of your own self-confidence. If you know that your health is what's hindering you and you can't control it or change that makes you more self-conscious or you lack that confidence in your work area because of your health. So what would be ways, especially from the laughter side of this segment's name, what are things that you might try to do to make it more lighthearted in those moments of struggle to kind of boost your confidence?
In this aspect, it could be answered in many ways. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's not always an answer. Mm-hmm. And I think that things work differently in different circumstances. I mean, health-wise, after getting hit by a crazed driver, I left the majority of Hollywood behind because I physically couldn't do it. Yeah. But that's kind of how I got on the journey that I'm on now. But when I'm having a down day, because part of with Tourette syndrome is we do deal with highs and lows of depression and anxiety, is I have kind of awesome friends that really check in on me. And I've been ticking a lot more lately. And anytime I tick, and I have hilarious ticks, by the way. So, for instance, I've had a friend who was, pregnant. She recently had her child. She was craving Mexican food the entire time. So my ticks kind of morphed into saying enchilada head in her child. Yes, they were Mexican themed. Let me just say that, saying that on the New York subway.
Probably not great.
But I had Stitch, the Chihuahua, and I made him go in they have doggy slings that are like baby slings, but because he went in a puddle of gosh knows what in the subway. So I was like, not happening again. I was like the crazy short little redhead with a dog that looked like in a baby sling.
I love
yelling out horchata head on the subway. And I could laugh at that. But whenever I tick, I have this one friend, and anytime I tick, she goes, white linens, because we were planning this event, this wellness event, and she was trying to remind me that I needed to pick up white linens.
Oh my God.
And so and I was ticking so much before the event that anytime, and now it's just stuck. So anytime I have a new one, but it's just being around people who can find the humor in it in an unoffensive way. I used to, growing up, be very sensitive. And I've realized that when I learned to laugh, that my tics are pretty dang hilarious. Like between grasshopper brains is another one, chimpanzee on a railroad. Like the other day, I had my niece in the car, and I was driving her on her way to ballet, and I said, "Bald bearded ballerina." And let me tell you that we both pulled on the side of the car. And I died laughing for like 10 minutes. She was actually ended up being late to ballet.
Oh, no.
But it was just because then we were thinking about that, and it was like, oh my God, bald-headed ballerina.
I love that. And it is it's such a release too, and that's such an important thing. Like you said, you kind of honed in on your humor with your chronic illness and having Tourette's, is really that it kind of becomes sort of a release of that sort of tension that you have from dealing with health struggles or dealing with a setback or a flare-up. It is really, it's sort of a positive tool to use to kind of allow you to have that sort of moment of relief and kind of release through it, instead of becoming more frustrated about what you can't do in that moment. It allows you to kind of push through it in a positive way. And like you said, having family and friends who can embrace it in a non-offensive way is a really beneficial kind of tool of using humor in your daily life with a health struggle.
Absolutely. I think that definitely having humor makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, being able to see the positive and laugh and say, okay, that is really, really hilarious. Like I had my first cursing tic on a plane. This is actually a funny. I'm not going to curse, I promise. But
you can.
I was reading a
novel,
and I think when I was like a little bit younger, I loved these 18th century like mystery romances, and apparently this was in actually December. I was on a plane next to my mom going to see my grandmother. And I was like, and apparently I was reading my book and I didn't even realize. And I go, "You're a blank." and I'm reading. And my mother is like this written on, I'm still reading. And then about a minute and a half later, I go, "You're a blank."
Oh my God, no.
Just said. And I go, "I didn't say anything. Leave me alone. I'm reading." And she goes, "Oh my God, you just had your first cursing tic." I go, "No, I didn't." She goes, and I go, "Wait, what was it?" And then she says what it was. And I go, "Oh, well, what'd you think the first time I saw it?" And she goes, "Well, I knew that you used to like these like mystery romances. So I thought you were just like reading about
a quote in the book.
Just doesn't end up with."
No, I love that. No, that's really, I love that even especially from a family perspective, because it is sort of, they are the sort of people who have to watch as well what you go through. So allowing them to kind of have a role and have that humor in your health journey is really important. And kind of another question I wanted to ask sort of to end the segment on was a lot of the work that you do. And I know this is something we've talked about quite a bit. I've talked about it on the show with my own health journey, is that when you're surrounded by healthier, able-bodied people, especially in your work of going to events and going to others sort of red carpets and doing branding work with brands that you partner with, you're really surrounded by healthy and able-bodied people. So what would be sort of your advice for other young people and tips that you would have to sort of become more empowered personally when they're surrounded by people who don't have chronic illness connections that they can see right away, so they don't have that immediate understanding of experiences that you would go through?
That's a really great question, and I commend you for asking it, because nobody's actually asked me that before. And
this is what the InvisiYouth chat sessions is all about, groundbreaking questions.
But I think that question is so important, because I think a lot of people don't realize is, like, for instance, there were nights where a good amount of the people involved who were either involved with the event or the campaign or whatnot would be celebratory drinking. And I knew that I couldn't. And I do. I'll have a glass of wine or whatnot here and there. I'm going to be 26 in August. So I am. Let's just make that clear. It's like,
we are of age.
But of knowing my body, and also knowing that, sometimes people would stay out later and I'd go home when I needed to. And that happened like recently, as I was out with a friend and I was like, I got to go home. I need to rest. But also when I'm around at these events, I think people don't understand, part of what I have is also social anxiety, which is extremely humorous at how outgoing I am.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot out of me. And it also takes a lot out of me to try to hold in my tics and to, be that person. And I think over the last few years, I've become a very private person who really craves my sanctuary at home. I used to be like that person who just thrived on being with others. And I do. I love being around people. But to me, I have learned to enjoy the quiet.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important for anyone, is to know when, you need that rest, even mentally. Sometimes, and a friend gave a term for it yesterday, and she said, it's called a mind vacation.
Ooh,
and sometimes
like
we can get so overwhelmed or filled with anxiety, or our brain is just filled to the brim. And then, we kind of get brain fog.
Yeah.
Because,
Story of my life.
yeah, because we're constantly taking in,
Yeah.
but we aren't taking that step back to completely decompress. So I listen to not meditation music, but actually rainfall like music, like what they put on for babies. It's funny. And I actually just kind of lay there and I have my headphones in, and I, make sure the temperature in the room is low. So I have like a fan or the air conditioner, and I try to relax, and I try to do that at least once a day for 30 minutes and just decompress. And then I come back more focused, more revitalized. Sometimes when I actually take a nap, then I wake up tired because my body is someone who needs more sleep.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like deprived and I set an alarm, that doesn't always work. But just taking that mental break really does help.
Yeah, and even going off of that too, when you're talking about that mind vacation, which I love, even on the other end, people think that meditation is such a hard skill to learn, and it's something that took me many, many years to do. But there's such short meditation that you can do that's even 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. It's just sort of even a 90-second sort of meditation. I know a big thing that I had actually told to me by one of our global brand leaders was, oh, you should listen to echoing of Stonehenge rocks. And I was like, Stonehenge rocks echoing. Yeah, so there was this whole sort of backhanded scientific research done. Then they have it in YouTube. You can find sort of knocking echoes within Stonehenge, and sort of the echoes of the rock, the sounds of it bouncing back and forth between the rocks in that unit, in that circle. It sort of can lower your brain frequency, and it goes into a calming state, even if you're just listening to it in a room. So I've had that a few times when I'm in the office and there's a lot going on, and different time zones and different brand leaders and doing the chat sessions. And so, like you said, you need that mind vacation, but that sort of non-traditional way of I'll just put that on in the background, and like you and toddlers have rain music, I have Stonehenge knocking. So so it both gives us mind vacations, but like you said, it's just sort of a calming sound in the background that can really be great. And especially it's something that people who are healthy and able-bodied can relate to, going, oh yeah, I can meditate, or oh my God, I'm not able to calm my mind that way. It's something that a lot of able-bodied and healthy coworkers or family members can relate to. I know a big suggestion I always tell people is, hey, if you have bad days, you have to remind healthy and able-bodied people. A lot of times, something I've learned over the years professionally and in my friend circle and personal life is reminding people that just because my bad days are more medical, and they are a lot, and probably if we scaled them, they're a little more severe than other bad days. You have to remind other people as well that we both have bad days. Mine just tend to be more requiring of a doctor or more medical assistance, where yours don't. But we both have bad days, and sort of reminding that in a humorous way to people who are healthy and able-bodied is there's a similarity here. Mine just require medical attention and yours don't.
Exactly. And I think that it's also just important to not be afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
When you need it. And sometimes able bodies won't understand. And as someone who battles both neurological and, chronic illnesses and things, with my immune system, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that however they respond is completely irrelevant. And we have to remember that is I could sit there all day and be jealous that they're able-bodied, or I could focus on myself and my own well-being.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what's going to be more beneficial to me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love kind of even ending on that note too of sort of what's the benefit definitely on your end. And before we go into one of my favorites, my intermission segment, my favorite one on that, I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers for InvisiYouth chat sessions. Like I always say, your support of the nonprofit means so much. Being able to bring this virtual program to you guys and being featured and listened to in more than 8 countries now, being on the air for a year now has been so thankful. We're expanding all of our programming because of donations and sponsors and charitable funds from listeners and viewers like yourselves. So I know on the screen now is popping our donate link, and that'll be in the description box as well. We always like to encourage, we love our programming and events to always be free for all of these amazing older youth with chronic illness and disability, and being able to provide amazing and fun things like this so you can listen to podcasts and make sure you're subscribing onto our iTunes and every podcast platform you're on, or subscribing to our YouTube channel as well. Everything in that regard means so much to us. And like I always say to all of you, it keeps all the lights on, and InvisiYouth charity keeps trucking forward. So we want to thank you for that, and any support you can always give in paying it forward, and sharing this podcast series with all of your friends and family is so thankful. So now that I shared a little thank you to all of you, I'm going to go into our intermission segment, where it's one of my favorites. It is So That One Time, where I'm going to have Hayley tell me a story.
So that one time.
Okay. Just so you know, and you'll see when we're in person, the most random things ever happen to me. Everybody's always like, yeah, you just like, you need to like, just like have a YouTube channel telling like, crazy things.
You need to vlog.
Yes, I need to vlog. And then I'm like, well, then I need to learn how to edit. And I was like, where do I have the time for that? And they're like, oh, Instagram boyfriend. And I was like, oh my gosh, when they're at events, like the guys doing the different angles, I'm sorry, but I cannot. They're so supportive, and I have so much respect for them.
They have so much patience too.
And so much patience, but I'm almost like, poor guy. Or it just kind of makes me giggle a little bit. And so I'll bring a friend, and they're my like Instagram girlfriend or something, because I can't do that. And they're like just happy to go and like get the environment. But I guess my story is going to it's kind of funny, and it involves my dog. So my dog has a boyfriend.
Right on.
And I know. No, my dog, his name is Stitch, and he's 6.8 pounds. Well, his boyfriend is a Mastiff / Shepherd mix.
Big boy.
Oh yeah, and it's 110 pounds, so over 100 pounds bigger.
I love it.
And I actually work like 10 hours a week, just because I love it, not because it pays the bills or whatnot, but doing autism behavioral intervention. Mm-hmm. And this is one of my clients, one of their dogs, and his name is Ziggy. And, I tried to keep Stitch away from him, tried. Okay. Stitch has become a little bit of, this dog just loves Stitch. And the meaner Stitch is, the more he loves him. Like, I just don't understand it. I'm an anti-bullying advocate. I passed an anti-bullying law. And, like, how do you feel when your baby is just horrible? And so he'll go, and this big dog will, like, have this giant bone that Stitch can't even lift. And Stitch will just, like, I would say the snap of his paws, but he doesn't snap. He just goes, and the dog will scoot over. Stitch will steal this giant bed where he doesn't even fit on, like, 1/6 of it, and have this giant bone, and won't even do anything but put one paw on it. And this dog just will give him whatever he wants. And it's the saddest thing, because then the dog is sitting there like with his hand on his paws, but still with a smile, like a little sad, and then just so happy that, Stitch has it. But then it was actually the other day, it was really cute. And I came in and I saw that they were cuddled, but the dog had his paw over Stitch. Aww. And at first I thought that he was trapping Stitch, and I was like, oh my gosh. But then I just realized Stitch gets really cold. And so Stitch was kind of shivering a little bit, but the dog was putting his paw, and I was like, okay, that's really, really cute.
Tell me you took a photo of this.
I did. I will so send it to you.
Yes.
It's the most adorable thing. And then, it was really cute. And then, they didn't know that I was like watching. I was being sneaky. I feel like I'm that helicopter parent in secret, like the covert helicopter parent.
I love it.
Like the back of the movie theater when her kids are like tweens. But actually, Stitch put his little head up on the dog. It was the grossest thing. And I had to give Stitch a bath fully with a mouthful of slobber. Like this, and his whole head was drenched. It was like it was adorable and disgusting at the same time.
Oh my god, I love it. Stitch and Ziggy, they need a ship name. They need to have their own Instagram. I'm convinced that's going to be Stitch's new Insta boyfriend.
Stitch and Ziggy, or like I used to say like let's get stitchy with it, like let's get jiggy with it, but I could say like Stitch that sounds wrong. Never mind. I'm not even gonna...
We're going in a different direction than this show is required. All right, so after that awesome sort of funny story that Hayley was just telling us about her awesome dogs, like we always say, animals are such a fun part to have, we're going to go into our last segment of the show, which is going to be all about more social media chatter. Like we just talked about those fun Instagram friends that help you out. We're going to help all of you, which is Hayley's specialty, talking about social media and social media branding and influencing, especially for the chronic illness and disability community. So we're going to go into our final segment, which is Rebel Game Changer status.
Rebel Game Changer status.
With Rebel Game Changer status, this specifically we're going to do is a fun one. I know a lot of you have wanted us to bring someone on who is an expert in this field, but we're going to be building sort of your upgrade and your ways of a step-by-step guide as a Rebel Game Changer in public activism. So doing that blend of social media influencing with the health activism, the chronic illness disability advocacy work. And so since that's such a big merge for Hayley and what she's been able to build, and since using social media as a tool, even for employment and virtual work, is so important for this older youth community, since especially with Instagram and social media platforms, it's such a prevalent part of their day to day and how they advocate, how with InvisiYouth we connect and have our brand leaders connecting and fundraising with us. So like we had said, and Hayley even said sort of in the previous segment, is that blend of influencer with social media activism is her real style of what she does on Instagram. So I kind of wanted to see what are some sort of tips that you would give to a lot of the older youth in the chronic illness and disability community that want to add that influencer brand support style of their activism at the same time.
I think these are all really great questions. And, I think that before you even consider speaking out about your chronic illness, your disability or whatnot, you really have to think about what your goals are, what your end game is. Because if you just want to be famous, I wouldn't encourage that. Because one of the really difficult things is there was a YouTube video that came out like 10 years ago about a guy with Tourette's. He really did have Tourette's, but it was just the cursing. But, it's that video, because once you put anything on the internet, it never goes away. It doesn't matter if you delete a post on Instagram. It's still there.
Yeah.
You may not see it on your feed, but it's on the internet, and the amount of people that can also screenshot, but it's also in a database like on Instagram.
Yeah. People
don't realize that it doesn't really disappear. But that video that he made and posted to YouTube has fueled the misinformation that, certain shows like South Park and Family Guy and whatnot, all about the cursing and what Tourette's actually is. That video itself, kind of became the pun of jokes for it. And so it can be what you post. I think people don't realize the power behind what we post. Is the word influencer comes from influencing. Yeah. And so you yourself become an educator if you're speaking out about something. So you really want to make sure that, your facts are accurate. I used to think I knew everything about Tourette's until I became trained as an ambassador at 16, and then I actually knew the medical terms.
Yeah.
So for whatever your disability or illness is, go to the actual nonprofit website or whatever the official website, or, your hospital, wherever a reputable website, and write down the facts and memorize them. I memorize them because if I'm making videos, I can say them like the top of the snap of my finger or whatnot. Or the other thing that I say is also safety. Yeah. And so you need to make sure to never, like if you're going live or if you're somewhere, don't post your location until after you've left. And I say this because especially if you are a teen or whatnot, people are targets easily. And especially with the targets and whatnot, people with disabilities, oftentimes and not everybody, but sometimes socially, it's hard to understand. And I think whether you have a disability or an illness or not, just reading the tone of over a text message, an email, Instagram can be really difficult. I would say to also follow other people like me and other people who are speaking up, follow people who are, affiliated, who've done TED Talks, who are young. You'd be surprised how many teens have actually done TED Talks.
Very, very true.
And look at their Instagram for inspiration. But I would also just think and try to remember to post positively. And so you can share a difficult day, but when you start posting and it becomes into a rant,
the long captions.
Exactly. It can not only bring others down, but it can, not every situation is the same within your criteria of your chronic illness or disability. And just like that, guy with the YouTube video, your rant could be educating someone accidentally. Yeah. And so make sure that if you are sharing an experience, you clarify, this is my experience, but it doesn't apply to everyone. And also I try to stay positive, and you can go through my Instagram and you can see that I do talk about days that are sometimes more difficult, but I always try to say that, like something for an example would be, even though today's difficult and I'm feeling lows, I'm incredibly blessed to have amazing friends in my life. Mm-hmm. Or I post a picture with my dog and say, a lot of people don't realize how beneficial animals can be when you deal with a chronic illness. Yeah. But having my dog around me actually calms the anxiety and the thoughts that I have regarding my health. Yeah. I think another thing is knowing when to block somebody, because I think that when we ourselves suffer from an illness or a disability, we think we're experts. Yeah. Which we are in our own way, but we are not professionals. And you need to always remember that unless you have a doctor or a degree, something, and you specialize in it. And so I think there's a fine line of realizing you can share your own experiences, but knowing to have references that you can give someone to say, hey, I may not know this, or I'm not the best person, or hey, go to this such and such website and you can learn all you want. Also, another thing is to know it's okay to block people. And if people do a not so nice comment, don't just take down your post unless, I would say, but always have like that friend who you can share a post with before you post it. You can either screenshot. I love to actually write my posts in my notes on my phone so I don't accidentally post it prematurely. And I either have like my sister, sometimes my mom too, if you feel comfortable with that. But I always have someone kind of like read it to get a second opinion, because sometimes I will be writing it in a more emotional state and I'll have a friend that'll be like, okay, you're sharing way too much.
Pull back a bit.
Yeah.
No, and I
thought you were saying
no. Oh no, not you. Sorry, no. Pull back on your comments. Sorry. Oh my God. No, never mind. That.
I think the term, and this goes really well with social media, is the less is more actually works, and I'll tell you why. When you share, and I'm not saying to not share or whatnot, but sometimes just sharing the main points. Yes, you can do your story, whatever or whatnot, but that, if you give them all of the information, they're not going to ask questions. I love when people ask questions because it gives me an opportunity to educate.
Yeah.
Now, for the following and whatnot, a few things you can do. And this is actually to help grow numbers organically. So that's more of the content wise.
Take your notes out, guys. I'm like bullet pointing in my head mentally what Hayley's saying. There's like questions on this card, and she's just answering them without me.
My secrets. I get paid hourly to consult and grow numbers organically because I turn numbers into sales. That's what I do. There are a few apps that I live by. And I don't just give this out, so this is like an exclusive.
There we go, guys. Pen and paper, take your notes out. I'm listening mentally.
It is one of my favorite apps. It's called When to Post. And you hook it up to your Instagram, and it will tell you based on your following what's the best time of day to post.
Huh.
That, because when you'll get traction, that means that if you post exactly when it says, you're going to get the most amount of likes.
Huh.
Another thing, if you want to know what hashtags to post that are relevant, let's say you're going into beauty or whatnot, hashtagify.me, TAGIFY.me, and type in your keyword, and it'll give you about 10 other words that are similar.
Taking out the notepad for people on YouTube.
Now, before you even consider doing those, search that hashtag on Instagram, and you want that hashtag to have between 50,000 and 500,000 hashtags. So you don't want it under that, or you're not going to get any traction. The other thing, and this is a huge thing that people don't know, is right when you post, and I like to do this, and I do it with friends. We kind of like have a time of day usually where we post, or we text each other like 5 minutes before we're going to post. Mm-hmm. And this is how you're going to get your post to get seen and get it to rise really fast to the top. That means that on your Explore tab or your home screen, that's what's going to pop up on your followers. And Instagram has changed the algorithm so that all of these things that pop up aren't normally seen. You only see about, I think it's like 30% of who you follow now. And this is the same people. So if you want to get in that home screen, what you do is within the first 60 seconds, and I know that's tough, you get your friends to comment right when you post, but it has to be 4 words or more, or it does not show up on the algorithm. They don't teach you this. So that means if you're doing a giveaway and you're saying, oh, like and follow this, and that's because you won't show up. You won't get very many. What you have to do is ask them a question, because usually when you ask them a question, like, okay, let's say you're advertising candy, or not advertising, but you're doing a giveaway for candy. Like, what's your favorite, or what flavor would you love to win? And who would you like to share it with, or where would you like to eat it? Because then they're going to say like, oh, grape at the beach. Grape and at the beach. That's 5. That's going to hit your algorithm. So you have to do that. But also, just like on the regular posts, the most comments and likes you can get within the first 60 seconds, I think you could do it technically in the first 2 minutes, is what's going to push it. So sometimes that can be beneficial. Like if, let's say you have 2 pages on Instagram, you immediately go and like it with the other page and comment. So you have to like and comment. So you tell your friends to like whatever you posted and comment with more than 4 words, and that's going to push it up. A few other apps that I like to use, if you're ever making a flyer or want to make something really pretty for your Instagram story, just aesthetically pleasing, I use Canva.
Oh, Canva is our favorite thing in the world.
It's like being a graphic designer without being a graphic designer.
Preach, my favorite thing.
Another thing that I use, if you look at my Instagram, I have a white square around it, which makes it really aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
And that's called Insta size. And that means that if you look at a lot of influencers or people in brands, they're all very light colored, and it's because it flows. But I'm able to kind of mix in a little bit darker because I have that white background.
Oh, okay.
Another thing that I will oftentimes, and it just, once again, it just kind of depends. Like for videos and whatnot, I will also use Insta size. So if I want a square, because a video taken on a phone is going to be a rectangle.
Yeah.
I'll post it on Instagram really quickly and remove it just so it's in the square mode, then do it on Insta size. And that's how I get it.
Oh.
Also, if you want to continue to grow your traction and whatnot, you need to be active on your stories. And that means that every day you should have at least 5 to 6 stories, and at least 1 to 2 of them should actually be your face or you talking. Because when you go to a Instagram page or whatnot, like when people go to mine, I always consciously ask myself before I post, what are they getting out of my page?
True.
And so the answer to that is empowerment, positivity, hope. And so if people are going to your page, how are you benefiting them? How are you impacting them? Because if you can't answer that question, they're not going to stay.
Yeah.
And also, you could have a ton of niches. Stick to one first, master that. I always like to also do, I call them my 10 super fans. Doesn't matter whether you're a celebrity, a blogger, or whatnot. That means that I have a list of the 10 people who constantly always tag or support or whatnot.
Very true.
And I always try to pay it forward and always or try to go and like their stuff at least once or twice a week. Go in and comment. I know, who they are as a person, so I know them by name, because those are the people who are going to constantly comment and continuously support you. And I will sometimes even do shout outs for them, like, hey, thanks so much to such and such who's always so supportive of my journey, because it just makes them feel special. Or what I really do to really say thank you, and sometimes I'll do this for new followers, especially if I see like, oh, somebody with a disability who's been bullied just followed me. I'm going to want to show them that I really care. And so it might take like 10 seconds out of my day, and I'll be like, hi, thanks so much for the follow, such and such, because it's their name, but I'll have gone through their page first. And let's say they have a cat. Thanks so much for the follow. You have the cutest cat ever. Have an amazing day. And just sending that video that you took the time to actually do that.
Yeah, means a lot.
You've just created a loyal follower. At the end of the day, you could have a zillion followers, but if they're not actually interested in you or just interested in your looks or whatnot, that doesn't benefit you, because anytime you try to promote a cause you care about or a brand, they're not going to support it.
Yeah, even kind of taking it one step further, kind of like ending it on this note with this segment, kind of taking it one step into a lot of what the big thing we'll always get, especially in the young people that we work with who are bloggers that have chronic illness and disability, and that's very much in the forefront of their social media activism that they do. It's very much part of their narrative. Like you said, they've found that niche, but we'll always get from a lot of them saying they feel very nervous about even having brand support, because they say, well, I have a physical disability or a chronic illness, or I talk about my health quite a bit. I don't know how brands would want to work with me, or which brands I should want to work with. So even kind of ending it on that note, what would be sort of your sort of game changer advice of what you would suggest to young people in that chronic illness and disability community that want to take that social media partnership to the next level?
Absolutely. First of all, as someone who, I don't just work in social media, I work within branding, and I work in brand strategy. And so I'm very much up on what's trending, what's popular, and you'd be surprised at how many brands want to work with people with disabilities, with illnesses and whatnot. If you look at campaigns for Nike, Puma, L'Oreal, CoverGirl, they're all using it because diversity and different is becoming more acceptable. It's becoming in.
Yeah.
And that in itself is really awesome. But I think if you're self-conscious about working with a brand, I think most people would expect me to say, well, just do it and raise awareness. Absolutely not. I say at the end of the day, do what you feel comfortable with, because you don't have an obligation to educate others. Just because you speak publicly about your disability, that's not all you have to speak about. And I think I want to end this in saying, and when people follow me on my social media, they see I am a foodie. I love healthy food. I have pictures of my dog. I love to travel. I like fashion. I have Tourette's, but that's not like everything I have. Like, that's not who I am. And I think just staying true to who you are, but not being drowned out, being like, oh, I got a following because I spoke out about whatever I'm going through. But that doesn't define you. That doesn't define your social media. People want to know who you are.
Hey, Hayley, you're covering your mic.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh my gosh, I do that on my phone. Oh yeah, I did, because I was with you I have a thing where I just cover mics on phones and computers.
I have headphones in. I'm going, am I losing sound or is Hayley covering? No, but I love that you said that too, is knowing that it's such a multifaceted, even if in every post you have on social media, especially for a lot of the older youth we work with, every post they have has a relation to their health. But like you said, that's one part of the many parts. You can talk about your health in every post, but it could be you and what you're wearing that day and mention your health, or your pet that you're with and mention your health, and it feeds in. And I know a big thing that we always say of brands that support us and are charitable sponsors to us, and I know this relates to you too, it's brands that we see them doing that push for diversity and inclusivity, but it's also brands and connections and other social media influencers and activists that are very much followed by your own community. If you're seeing that they're followed by my friends plus 167 other followers, you see that relationship, and then that kind of can boost your confidence going, I could bring something to a relationship, and I like this brand or partnership or individual on my own, regardless of the style you want to bring into it. So I think, like you said, that's key, is you have so many different types of posts, but your main message of empowerment, of diversity and activism,
and that's all knowing your message that you're consistently putting out. So I could be talking about my medical health or my disability, but it all ties in. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to do it, because otherwise, if you just post about completely random, irrelevant things, you're going to get different followers for each of those things. Yeah. And so instead of consistently getting a lot of likes or whatnot, if that's what you're after, you're only going to get those certain people liking certain posts. I think to end this, I can also say is social media can be really amazing in the aspect it can help you find that community, that support system and whatnot. But social media is something where I also encourage people live in the real life. I work in social media, and anytime I'm out with friends for lunch or whatnot, I'll take a picture of it. My phone goes away. Yeah. And I think to just remember to not get lost in it. And especially when you start to gain traction, it can become intoxicating. Mm-hmm. And I've been through those phases. And like when I don't have my phone, I'm like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone? And that drives me absolutely crazy.
No, and I love the sort of like ending ironically on being truthful and transparent with social media kind of ends the episode, where I'm going to then ask Hayley to tell everyone where they can find you on this amazing social media platforms that you're on, so we can have all of our listeners and viewers get to find you and see all the great activism that you're doing.
Absolutely. I can be found on Instagram, and it's at It's Hayley Gripp, ITSHAYLEY GRIPP. My Post with Integrity campaign is at Post with Integrity. And then I think by the time this airs, because it's almost about to launch, my official website, which is going to be www.HayleyGripp.com. Mm-hmm. And I'd say reach out to me or whatnot. Yeah. I do my best to respond. I love to answer questions, and I'm here to support or give guidance to anybody in need.
Yeah, I mean, Hayley and Hayley's support of InvisiYouth came through our Instagram page. So you can find Hayley on social media. And like I always tell everyone, you can find InvisiYouth on our website, InvisiYouthCharity.com, or on our social media platforms, which is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at InvisiYouth. And as always, you can subscribe and comment, give thumbs up, 5 stars, everything on our video podcast series. You can find us on YouTube at InvisiYouth Charity, and on pretty much every podcast platform at the InvisiYouth Chat Session. So iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, the whole gamut of podcasts. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen and watch this episode. I especially want to thank Hayley for being our guest, and we will get to speak to all of you guys again soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.